And we welcome you into our Thursday edition of lcpioneers.com live, presented by Pios Stream, 4 days a week, streaming live on our Facebook page via Facebook Live at lcpioneers.com/live, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 in the morning Pacific time, and available on demand to watch at youtube.com/lcpios, keeping you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and different members of the Lewis and Clark community at large. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Goff. I'm the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark Athletics. We are the Pioneers out of Portland, Oregon, member of the NCAA Division III level and competing in the Northwest Conference with other institutions from throughout Northwest Oregon and the state of Washington, and via 430 plus institutions competing at the NCAA D3 level. Chances for all of our student athletes to compete on a nationwide scale. Lewis and Clark also offering really outstanding overseas study programs too. So a chance for our students and student athletes alike to get experience all over the world. We do invite you to keep in touch with the show via social media and ask questions for our guests. And today we'll bring in head Lewis and Clark softball coach Shawna Cyrus, entering her 12th season leading the program. We'll have a chance to talk to her about what to expect for the upcoming year in terms of some of the returners that she has coming back. But we'll also look back on the spring season. I mean, a completely unusual season because of the coronavirus pandemic that cut what was a very optimistic start for her team short. We'll also kind of get a feel for what's different over the summer months too, because I mean, a lot of places, especially in the state of Oregon, still getting to that reopening phase, right? Is recruiting different? So we'll certainly talk to her about that in just a few moments. You can comment in the Facebook Live comments or email us sports@lclark.edu if you do have a question for her or any of our guests. You can also suggest future guests as well on social media, as we are on Instagram and Twitter at LC Pioneers. I do want to invite you to our website, lcpioneers.com. That is where you can find the latest information about Lewis and Clark Athletics, including this time of year, we're always featuring our incoming recruiting classes and recently posted up the new Pios for the 2020-21 academic year for baseball, as head coach Matt Kozderka is welcoming in 7 new student athletes. You can read about them and why they chose LC right now at lcpioneers.com. And as I mentioned too, all of our shows archived to watch on demand via our YouTube playlist. This is now week 12 of the show, believe it or not. We've had about 3 full months of shows, and you can check those out at youtube.com/lcpios, a chance to see what's going on with all of our past shows, watch them on demand, and hopefully share them with a friend too. I invite you to subscribe to the channel too, as we put up new information, new content there as much as we possibly can. So let's bring in our guest for today. Again, entering her 12th season leading the Lewis and Clark softball program. We welcome Shawna Cyrus to the show on lcpioneers.com live. Coach Cyrus, good to talk to you and have you on the show. Appreciate taking the time to join us. Curious, as you look back on what was, I imagine, probably the oddest 2020, oddest season of your life, when you reflect back on the spring season that was for your Pioneers, what kind of comes to mind as you've now had a couple of months to think about it?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is just I'm really proud of them, the way they handled the situation. Clearly, obviously upset for most of them, especially my seniors, who were pretty distraught about losing their opportunity to finish their, softball careers. But just really proud for their resilience, both in the classroom. We finished with one of the highest GPAs we've ever had. So just really proud of the group to end it the way that it ended.
The GPAs and such, you have no competitive season after the middle part of March. And it seems like a lot of our teams kind of took all that competitive focus into the classroom, especially looking at how, they had to take classes remotely. What were some of the things that you did with your team, both to make sure that success happened in the classroom, but also they just kind of kept in touch with one another?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, and it's the Zoom party that everybody's on. We were Zooming all the time, just checking in with each other, and we talked about just trying to have the highest GPA that, they individually could do. I think our lowest GPA was a 2.9, so that is terrific for our group. But yeah, they just did a really good job, and some of them it was pretty difficult, being in Hawaii and having an 8 a.m. class here in Oregon and having to get up as early as they could and get on it. So they just did a really good job in terms of getting after it and knowing that that's where the competition mode was at that time.
And you didn't get a chance to have the full senior day that you would like to have to recognize your three seniors. Um, when you look back at that group, Lisa Kumasaka, Frankie Warden, and Savannah Dixon, what do you feel like they did for your program, especially kind of leaving maybe somewhat of a legacy in, again, odd circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, they were really just a great overall group. Um, Frankie, is just that tough kid, man. She's just grinding in the weight room and trying to bop home runs every day at practice. And Lisa just outworks everybody. She just shows up and does work. She doesn't really say a lot, but the team follows her. And Sav was just our like emotional leader. The team went to her for anything that came up. So she was a really emotional leader and able to on the mound as well. So yeah, really, just a tough group to leave behind. Just really good student athletes, really good people.
Shawna Cyrus joining us on lcpioneers.com live, head softball coach for Lewis and Clark. Uh, Reasons to be optimistic heading into next season, and hopefully sooner than later. Things like fall ball will be as normal as possible amidst the pandemic. Why do you think Pioneers fans should be optimistic about what's coming up for next softball season?
Yeah, I think Pioneer fans, softball fans, got a real good taste of what's going to be happening with how we finished last year. Yes, Frankie and Lisa were on just tears and leading the conference in some categories, but I really think the pitching staff in the circle was um, just really needed for us, and you could really tell watching us play that some things were changing. Um, and so I think that was a really good taste last year of what's to come. So we have some really good kids coming in to blend in. We actually have one coming back who missed last season because she was abroad for the whole year. So we've got a lot of talent coming back, which I'm really excited for.
And elaborate on that pitching thing, right? I mean, how important it is for teams to have a solid pitching staff and some depth at that position, because that seemed like something that stood out during the 2020 season.
For sure. Depth is everything. Obviously, in softball, if you have one really legit pitcher, it'll take you far. But if you don't have that one person, having a deep staff is pretty. I mean, we need it. We were throwing 3 to 4 pitchers in one game there for a while, and I love that. I mean, we're just trying to throw teams off. Once they start hitting one, we'll bring another one in. So that is really just neat, and they all work together really well, understanding. And we were communicating a lot about, hey, if you're doing well and I pull you out, don't feel upset about it. We're trying different things, so they were all on the same page, and it was working. So,
Well,
so
and you say it was working too. I mean, if you look back toward the end of the season, mid-March, right? You were coming off a Whitworth series that seemed like it was little pieces of everything that you had been talking to your team about in terms of the success that they could have, showing itself as you took 3 of 4 from the Pirates. What was it about that series that you thought was kind of evident of some of the things that were changing for your program?
well, number one, the biggest thing that came out of that series was the returners saying, "Whoa, we can do that." Okay, we can do that. Like that's who we are. We're not afraid to do that. And I think they just needed that little push of confidence that that's who you are and that's what you're capable of. And I think they were really starting to feel that confidence and being able to take that into the conference and just move forward with so and the weekend before that we played George Fox and we were beating them in many games, down to the wire and lost those games. But I think they were really feeling what we were capable of. So that was the biggest thing I'm taking away from that.
She's Shawna Cyrus joining us on lcpioneers.com live, head coach of the Lewis and Clark softball program. We are Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 in the morning on Facebook Live and archived on YouTube at youtube.com/lcpios. You got to Lewis and Clark after an all Pac-10 career as a student athlete for Oregon State. and then a couple of coaching stops, including time at Oregon State, your alma mater. What brought you to Lewis and Clark for the opportunity to lead the softball program?
Yeah, I was at Oregon State as an assistant there for 5 years, and I loved it. I mean, that was my alma mater. I'm a big Beaver fan still, and I was really happy. But I was getting older, and I was feeling I want to have a family. I want to get married. You know, children, and I just didn't feel that I wanted to do that much and be able to balance my family. So I started looking for Division 3 schools, knowing that the philosophy of Division 3 is a lot of balance and family time, and I really liked that. So yeah, Lewis and Clark kind of fell in my lap, and I was really excited about it.
And now, as the head coach, when you talk to potential recruits coming to Lewis and Clark, what is it about the opportunity specifically about, Lewis and Clark College and the academics and the all-around experience that really excites you that, are some of the first thoughts you share with potential recruits?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my first recruiting trip to Lewis and Clark, they were showing me all around, and I was floored. At number one, the campus, and it's in Portland. I just thought those two things right there just got me. So I knew if I'm walking around as a potential recruit, as a coach, I can do the same thing with a potential student athlete. With the campus in Portland being the first and foremost things. So once you see all that, and then you hear all the added things that we have to offer, um, I think it's a great sell. And I love talking about our campus, and I love talking about all the help that each student gets on campus. So um, I do that all the time, and I believe in it, and I love talking about the campus and everything we have to offer with all of our recruits.
We haven't had the chance to share your recruiting class yet. In fact, that's coming up on Saturday at lcpioneers.com. But give us a glimpse into the collective, what you're excited about with this group of freshmen that you'll have for next season that really stands out as you look at that class.
Yeah, well, losing Frankie is a big bat in our order, and so that's tough to she's tough to replace. So I think we've got a pretty some big boppers coming in to hopefully replace her eventually, and then we've got speed coming in too, which Lisa was constantly leading our conference in stolen bases. So I think a good mixture of speed and power in our lineup, and a couple of utility players that can kind of do different things for us, whatever we may need. So I'm pretty excited about that. We'll see what they can do. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time to get your feet wet and stuff, but they definitely can play, and I'm really excited to add them in.
And I'm curious what you've experienced this year heading into the summer that's maybe different when it comes to the art of recruiting. Has that affected, with the coronavirus pandemic? How has that affected the way that you've normally recruited and spent your summers?
Yeah, it's absolutely so different. It's just, and it's different for the athletes as well. I mean, they're a little bit freaking out as well because they're not able to play in front of college coaches. So I've been on the phone a lot with a lot of different girls, and been watching a lot of videos that they've made, and that's really all I can do. A lot of the states that have started to play a little bit without fans and all that, and a lot of them are live streaming games. So that's been helpful. So I've been able to watch some games on my computer. Still hard trying to see who's who and things like that, but I mean, you just gotta do whatever we can do and get through it. So, but I'm feeling really good about the people I'm talking to already, though. So
It's kind of that real life test of the perseverance that comes from being a student athlete, especially one at Lewis and Clark with all the demands on time and the rigorous academics. Um, you had an opportunity too, and this has been the case for Lewis and Clark student athletes in different sports, but coming out of Oregon State, you had a chance to play professionally overseas. Walk us through, that experience, kind of how it came to be and what some of the highlights were for you.
man, that was out of left field for me. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anybody that had done that before. Just people that I knew. We all started talking. We're talking to now this guy in Amsterdam who's telling you, it was a little bit freaky. But I I just said, let's do it. And so I ended up going with another player. She was one of the top players in the country from Arizona State, their pitcher. Her and I actually went together. So the professional teams over in Europe can have two American players um, each team, so they don't stack them up. But so her and I went together. We lived together. We helped the team, and it was so much fun. They have a European championship, and that year it was in Italy. So we got to go to that, and we won the whole thing, which was the first time our club had ever won that. And so we were just, it was such a cool experience. You know, I'd go up to bat, and the catcher would say, "Hey, I know you." Yeah, and she was American, you know. I remember you from Oregon State, you know. So there was random Americans out there playing, and it was just a really cool experience. And I have, you know, connections out there, and I love that I can help people that I've coached get to that place as well, just by making some phone calls. So it was a really awesome experience, and I loved it. Yeah.
It kind of shows, the close-knit community of sport, right? And
Yep.
that's that small world. I'll tell you what, Coach Cyrus, we've had Maddie Lee from your past. We had Sydney Cross, who will be back as a rising senior next year on the show already, and really enjoy talking to all of your student athletes. Certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us on lcpioneers.com live today.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you.
That's Coach Shawna Cyrus. Yeah, really great team. Softball season, uh, the spring sports happen during the year, and we have so many of our teams competing all at once. And what is nice about the softball and baseball games is when you're on site getting a chance to cover those events, it actually kind of slows down and you get to know some of the student athletes better during the games, even in between double headers, for example. Then sometimes you have a chance to talk at practice or during their off season or their non-traditional season. And so that's what's really neat about the softball program. It also helps that a ton of Coach Cyrus's student athletes help with all of our PioStream endeavors too. So for the most part, the fall and winter seasons, the vast majority of PioStream's crew is the softball program. So have a chance just having the opportunity to head PioStream to get to know a lot of Coach Cyrus's student athletes really well, and super helpful, super great, and super fun to know. So I really appreciate her taking the time and share that story too about playing professionally, because that's another example. There's many Lewis and Clark student athletes who have had the opportunity to go overseas and compete in a variety of sports too. And so to have that connection with a former overseas player like Coach Cyrus is pretty neat too. So I appreciate her joining us on the show and having a chance to give a glimpse into her program. We'll continue the conversation tomorrow. Our final show of the week, we'll bring in Kelsey Parker, a rising junior from volleyball. I talk about the rise of that program too, because a full season with being a fall sport last year, and they did some really great things, and the entire team, sans one player, is coming back next year, and that's pretty exciting for Emily Hayes, the head coach, who's entering her third season leading that program. I expect them to do some pretty cool things in the Northwest Conference next year. And then we'll start off next week with Ben Walker of men's golf. And then the next day, talk to golf head coach James Yen. We've been trying to have as many of the spring sport coaches on the show since this kind of came out of the coronavirus pandemic. And with Coach Cyrus today and Coach Yen next week, I'm pretty sure that we've had all of the spring sport coaches on the show have a chance to kind of reflect back on a coronavirus shortened season. Also, Valerie White will join us next week too. She is the ombuds person for Lewis and Clark College. So, as part of the scope of the show, have an opportunity to bring in voices from the greater Lewis and Clark College community. And excited Valerie will join us and talk about the invaluable service that her office offers the entire campus, students, staff, and faculty alike. So hope you'll join us then. Big thanks again to Coach Cyrus for joining us today, and big thanks to you for watching. I'm Ryan Goff. We will talk to you again tomorrow at 11:30, as we do Tuesday through Friday on Facebook Live and archived on YouTube, youtube.com/lcpios for lcpioneers.com live. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
My favorite spot on campus is like right outside the Dovecote, little benches, and there's flowers growing there, and you can get a little coffee at the Dovecote and sit there.
My favorite spot on campus is definitely the weight room. I get that everybody loves like the gardens or the manor house, but our facilities for athletics here are actually amazing too, and the weight room is definitely my favorite spot.
My favorite spot on campus would either be the glade outside of the athletic facilities or South Campus.
What is my favorite spot on campus? I really like the back porch of the manor house. It looks out on Mount Hood, and on a clear day, it's super beautiful just to sit around with friends.
I'm Ann Bentley. I'm an associate professor of chemistry, and in this research group, I supervise the 2 students working in the Rogers program this summer in our lab. The brown bag experience is a good chance for students to get experience presenting their work that they've done in the lab, especially to an audience that's not technical.
What's intriguing about the brown bag experience is it incorporates all of the Rogers program. So I'm able to hear people in the psychology department and what research they're doing, but it also gives us the opportunity to share our research with the greater science community at Lewis and Clark. And for incoming students, the summer program is really beneficial for getting opportunity in research. So I've had the opportunity for research in the past, but other students may not have the same opportunities. So it's nice to work in a professional lab setting and potentially have the opportunity to publish a paper, which looks really good moving on into doing professional research out in the field.
The students grow a lot during the summer in their ability to learn the techniques and apply the techniques and suggest their own ideas for what could come next and interpret their data. It's just a big, usually if they haven't done research before, they learn a lot in that short period of time.